Hello, everyone. Welcome. Let's see. As I usually do, I'm going to pop this up. This is where you can get today's soundtrack. scientificsounds.com/wonder. And here's where you can go to ask questions, make comments. I had... So that's scientificsounds.com, ask a question. Also, that's where you would go. I had mentioned the behavioral psychoacoustics book that I have now for my California Institute for Human Science PhD class. And if you wanted that, you could send me an email here at Ask a Question and say you want that book. Here is where you can see all the live streams I've done up to this point, my YouTube channel. You subscribe to it. I'm also on Instagram, that's at Dr. Jeffrey Thompson, and my own Facebook, that's Dr. Jeffrey Thompson. You can see these live streams on Facebook and YouTube. They're simulcast. Thanks to my son Shay, who does all this kind of stuff and hooks up a professional studio, and I'm simulcasting through something called OBS Studio with a professional microphone hanging around here with a suspended in an arm and all that stuff. So we're talking today about wonder. You know, when I think about wonder myself, you know, all of us started at some point with our first experience of wonder. And that was at some point when consciousness awakened in the void. Consciousness arrived on the scene, but there was no scene. There was nothing, just me in a state of awe and wonder. Sort of, you know, wondering, what am I? Who am I? Where is all this? What is all this? But there's no location. There's no sensation of a body, because that's going to take a while for everything to differentiate enough until 16 to 24 weeks when all my senses come online. And even then, the only senses active are sound and vibration against my skin. So, you know, first there's a first experience is wonder. Who am I? What am I? What is this? Is before those thoughts, which are happening without words because we don't have language yet, the very first thing is a sense of awe and wonder. And then perhaps a question. What is this? Where am I? Who am I? Without words, before a thought. In the eternal void. But then there becomes the process of waking up. So there's another second explosion of wonder at 16 to 24 weeks when my senses first come online. You know, and now it's something new. It's like, whoa, what's this? Sound, vibration on my skin. It's the first time I know I've got skin or ears to hear. Just imagine what it would be like to have the very first sensation that you've ever had, and have it be sound waves, or have it be vibration sense on all of the skin of your body. Trillions of sensors stuck in your skin, specifically tuned to low frequency vibrations. It's the first time you know you've got skin. It's the first time that through the vibration of your skin that you can map out that you have a shape to your body. Sound is something completely different. You don't know the concept of an ear, or you don't know what that is. All you know is that it's brand new and it's amazing and filled with wonder, awe. You know, it's pulling back the curtain. I mean, you're born, you begin to have, and that's another sense of wonder. The moment you're born, you come out of that environment, which was like the second wonder stage, and now that's the third wonder stage. You know, I remember when my son Shay was born. Of course, we were doing all kinds of crazy things. Like once in one of the previous live streams, I talked about this. The Stanford University studies with rats in impoverished and enriched environments in cages. The rats in the enriched environments develop extremely high IQs, very smart, and the ones in impoverished environments were sickly and stupid. So it means that enriched environments enrich the brain, enriched pathways growth, and more and more connections between neurons is a direct property of enrichment of experience. The deepest enrichment of experience I can think of is a sense of awe and wonder, where it's hard to wrap your mind around. And in order to try to get your mind to wrap around that, your brain begins to grow new connections like crazy in order to encompass the IQ necessary to stretch your mind that far. Like I said many times before, Einstein's brain was 35% denser and heavier. The normal brain's more connections between neurons, not more neurons. Connections. The connectome is what that's called. And what makes that connectome more dense and more dense and more dense is wondrous experiences, imagination, stretching my mind to the nth degree of its capacity. The more I stretch my mind, the more connections grow, because the brain is trying to encompass the processing power to experience where I'm trying to stretch to. If I'm trying to stretch beyond where I am, I have to grow myself bigger. So that's what the brain is doing, is growing its connections bigger. And when we measure that we call that intelligent quotient. The processing power of your brain is what IQ is, how much your brain can process more and more and more, so that a person with extremely high IQ can encompass more sense of wonder and more sense of processing power than those with smaller IQ whose brains are still sort of locked in a box and haven't tried to stretch. If I want to stretch my mind and stretch my capacity, then I have to stretch my processing power, and how I do that is growing new connections between brain cells. So, you know, in the Stanford University research project, where well, all they simply did was give the rats in the enriched environments more things to do, more things to stretch themselves, more mazes to run, more toys to play with, more colors to experience, more food groups and nice colored lights and this and that changing every day. So the environment becomes extremely enriched, and so does the brain, and so does the IQ. So essentially, in the womb, you've got a rat in a cage. I hate to say it, but... And the only way that you can enrich the fetus in the womb is to enrich in its environment. And the only thing that it is experiencing in that environment is sound and vibration. So, put speakers on your belly, put headphones on your belly, play the great composers, play music, talk to your baby, sing to your baby, enrich the environment on a continual daily basis. And that's pretty much what I counsel. Patients of mine, you know, who are pregnant, and how to smooth the transition and make it much more enriched and You can almost guarantee to be able to boost the IQ of your child if you do this, if you enrich the environment in the womb, which you can only do with sound and vibration. So pick up guitar, play guitar, put it against your belly. Play cello, that would be cool. Have somebody play piano, put your belly against the piano. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Headphones with Beethoven, Brahms, and Schubert, and Dr. Jeffrey Thompson. Let's do brain entrainment. Let's expand where all the brain waves can go right from the womb. Let's burn those pathways. Alpha and theta and epsilon and delta and gamma and default mode network, all of these. We now know that the borderline between beta and alpha is where high prodigy kids have their brain activity. Borderline between beta and alpha. So why don't we entrain there to boost IQ? That's what we're doing in our labs. So why not do it in the womb? Double down on boosting IQ. You know, at some point, it's, you know, the whole thing is Alice in Wonderland. Everything you experience could be new. That's where you develop your childlike part. Your infant, your innocent mind. The same mind you had in the womb. Push the envelope of that mind, the mind of wonder, the mind that sees everything as if it's seen it for the first time. Pull the curtain back. You know, but be prepared for, you know, a universe of Cheshire cats in Wonderland. You know, yeah, it's interesting that, you know, I live on Cheshire Avenue. That's where I live. My house is on a place called Cheshire Avenue. So I've, you know, pay homage to the Cheshire cat. And indeed, that is pretty much what my life looks like. Reality is nothing more than a cat that fades away, and all that's left is a big smile floating, you know. I have a plaque outside my house, Cheshire Manor, with this picture of the Cheshire cat from the original illustration of Alice in Wonderland. That's what you see when you come to my front door. But the property of all of these things that we have discussed over all of these live streams, all of us, one of the properties of human beings, one of the properties of our species is curiosity and the sense of wonder. We're constantly seeking to explore beyond the hill to the next place, to something new that no one's ever seen before. And in reality, all the things that we see all the time are things that we don't notice, so we're not actually seeing them. We're cataloging them as recognition patterns in our brain and saying, oh, that's a book, and that's a room, and that's a mask, and this is a that, and this is a that. And it's just like cataloging in our library of information. But I mean, when you look at an apple, you hold an apple in front of you, you're not experiencing appleness. Your brain is opening up a first grade reader that has big letters that says apple, and the other side is a drawing of an apple. That's as deep as it normally goes for most of us. And everything in our experience, everything we look at, everything that we experience is cataloged sort of that way. We don't allow ourselves into the depths of it as an experience that's happening right now in this present moment along with it. So I can grok the appleness of apple as a mindfulness state, an awakening to appleness. And then I can bite into that apple and have a psychedelic experience of delving into the appleness of apple and absorbing that into my body and making it part of me, and experiencing that the apple has now become me and I've become the apple. We've melded. High meditation states, meditation in action is what that's all about. That the meditation in action is I go to the supermarket as an aware being and I pick up the apple. I pick up the orange. I walk. I push a cart with a sense of wonder that I'm here, that I'm breathing, that I'm alive. That's the sense of wonder, where I transform my ordinary life that I'm normally hypnotized and asleep to, and automatically catalog as first grade pictures in my memory bank so I can recognize something, but I don't go deeper than that. And to stop myself and go deeper than that at will. That now I can do that. Right this second I can do that. Right now I can pick up my glasses and have that be a mind-blowing experience of glassness, of where my fingers touch the metal. It has a certain texture, has a certain feel. It's the things that normally are discounted. The way the brain works is it prunes data information because it's trying to save energy. Rule number 2. Rule number 1, survive at all costs. Rule number 2, get the most work with the least amount of energy expended. Don't waste life energy. Do no self-harm. So I'm constantly trying to save energy. So I do something in my nervous system that's called accommodation. I accommodate to things. For instance, when you first sit down at your computer today, new information is coming from your butt as it hits the chair. The brain goes, oh, I got new information. Is this a threat? Nope. Well, is it really good for me? Well, yeah, because I'm taking a load off, but beyond that, no. And so it's neutral, and if it's neutral, I accommodate to it and make it disappear. I don't waste any more life energy processing data from my butt. Even though data is coming, I'm ignoring it. I'm not spending brain power. So my butt disappears until right now that I'm talking about it. Someplace in your brain double checks and makes sure your butt is still there and it's okay. But and ultimately, I do that with myself. I accommodate me. I accommodate to myself. I look in the mirror, I see the face, I go, oh yeah, that's Jeff. And enough said. No more data. No more data processing. I've placed it in its place. I know who I am. I know it's me. I'm looking in the mirror. I'm in the bathroom, whatever. That information all just dissipates and disappears because it's unimportant and it's not a threat to my life. But I have the choice to stop and to intentionally unaccommodate. Unaccommodate the apple. Unaccommodate my butt. Unaccommodate anything I wish, right? Unaccommodate all the things that I take for granted that I'm familiar with and I no longer see. And now I'm going to make them real. I'm going to arrive here now in a new state of wonder, as if I've never seen it before, as if I've never experienced it before. I walk outside with no shoes or socks on and step on the grass as if it's the first time I've ever done that. And there was a first time that you ever did that, right? You're a child, no shoes, probably no clothes. Your mom lets you walk for the first time or crawl, and you go out on the grass. First experience of grassness on your skin. Later, you accommodate to that. Okay, I know what that is, so I don't have to do that anymore. No, that's shouldn't be the way it works. If I am striving to wake up in the big sense, and I'm trying meditation practices, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that in order to be a more conscious person, a more self-aware person, then part of what that involves is me continually reinventing myself and reinventing my experience with everything I experience. And that can be just anything. Everything is mind-blowing. I mean, at one point in my life, anything I do or experience was the first time. And when it happened the first time, it was imbued with a sense of grandiose wonder. Oh, wow. Apple. Whoa. Grass on my skin. Wow. As I said before, you get down on your hands and knees, you look down there, you go, whoa, there's a whole world down there I didn't know that was there. There's another sense of wonder. At age 7 is around the first time that cognitive self-awareness takes place, the first sense of wonder of me looking in the mirror. The very first time I look in the mirror and go, oh, that's me. There's somebody looking out of these eyes. That's new. Interesting. Never saw that before. I've always seen my face, but I've never actually looked out of my eyes and seen my face and been here right now and took a good look at who is that. Wow, that's interesting. I never really saw my face before. Newness. So, you know, back there in the womb, there was a point where I felt myself for the first time. At some point, you know, my fingers are going to touch me, touch my skin, touch each other. I'm going to suck my thumb. That will be an experience. I am now aware that I've got a body that can feel it with vibration, but touch is part of the sense of vibration. So when I touch myself, it'll be the first time. Another explosion of awe and wonder. Whoa, there's something new. A sense of wonder of being able to move. You know, little babies are laying on their backs in their little bassinet thing, and they're like making their faces, and they're like moving their arms, legs around, and it's this kind of a thing going on. Down inside the brain, there's some like little person down there in in some kind of a cockpit, cosmic cockpit with switches and dials and buttons, and you go, whoa, what's this? I mean, what if I push that button and the finger moves, and I pull that switch and the arm moves, and oh, let's push these buttons and hit these switches, and while we're doing that, the body and the crib is making faces and doing stuff, and it's like you're exploring the switches. And what if I do these two switches at the same time? What if I do a dozen switches at the same time? I can actually roll over, and if I get really adept at this and do a whole bunch of them at the same time, I can actually get up on my hands and knees and crawl and walk and talk and think and conceive. Every stage of all of that is a crescendo of a string of experiences of wonder, 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 wow, 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 over and over again until we've got all that under our belts. And then we sort of take all for granted. We start to accommodate. We start to save energy. We start to lose it. But there was the very first time that you recognized you in the mirror, around 7. The same time that the crystals began to form in the pineal gland. We discussed that at great length. That was the series of 3 live streams on the chakras, and the third one, called the crown, was talking about the pineal gland specifically, and we discussed deeply its architectural structure and the fact that it's filled with ever-growing crystals, like a crystal radio set. But these crystals have piezoelectric effects, and crystals hold memory in their shape. So, the crystal formation in the pineal gland begins around age 7, when I first become self-aware. And self-awareness is a hallmark of the crown chakra, which is deeply associated with the pineal gland. So all of this starts to hang together all of a sudden. And a hallmark of awakening is always filled with awe and wonder at the simplest possible things in your life. Your next breath, touching, breathing, seeing, hearing. All of it is a constellation of wondrous, mind-boggling experiences. When you no longer take things for granted, which is a choice that you have at any moment. I think I'll stop taking things for granted now and have a direct experience of anything and everything. Let's see what that's like. Wow. Well, every hour of every day is an unspeakably perfect miracle. When you're in that state, no accommodation, direct experience of now. Rupert Sheldrake, the universe is not in a steady state. There's an ongoing creative principle in nature which is driving things onward, always flowering, always opening up, searching for new, behind the curtain avenues for more wonder, more newness, something new to experience which will spark that sense of wonder, sense of awe. Carl Jung, synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence of two or more events where something other than the probability of chance is involved. Yeah. The deeper we delve into all of this, the more that we see that simultaneity, synchronicity, no accidents, fractal hologram structure of everything reflected in miniature in everything else. In acupuncture, all the meridians, all my organs, all my glands, my structure, everything is reflected in miniature in my ear. Auricular acupuncture, like a fetus upside down with its head down here, its butt is over here, its spine is this ridge, internal organs inside. It's like, wow. Reflected in my eye, iridology, reflected on my tongue, in miniature, every part of my body. Reflected on the palms of my hands, my whole body, on the bottoms of my feet, reflexology. The structure of the connectome in my brain is, almost identical to the grand organization of star systems in the universe. The universal web, the intergalactic web of how the nebulas and star systems and galaxies are strung out along these massive lines in the universe that form network patterns that look exactly like how the brain is wired. It's astounding. More to be awed and blown away by. It's Richard Bandler, the guy who began NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. You know what? Certain people think they will feel good if certain things happen. The trick is, you have to feel good for no reason. That's so awesome. I had a patient who was going through one of my biotuning sessions on the sound table with headphones and brain entrainment, all the rest. And she started crying. This was during the Theta session where we work on emotions and healing emotional trauma. So Theta is where you go when you dream, and dreaming is all emotional things. And so that's where emotions get healed at night. So when we entrain to Theta, to a specific brain frequency that causes homeostasis in the autonomic nervous system, zero stress, my safe place. Now it's safe, and it's a prerequisite for healing. So now I've used science to unlock the program in my brain in Theta where emotions get healed. So we're stacking the deck in our favor for that outcome. And and so here she is crying. It's not common. I've seen it. But she's crying for a long time. And about halfway through the session, 15 minutes, then the crying turns into sobbing. And now it's like, whoa, I've never seen anybody cry for the whole session, 30 minutes. That's wow. And when she's done, it's like, are you okay? Here's a glass of water, and, how are you doing? What happened? And she's going, I was just in the middle of reliving the happiest time of my whole life when I was a little girl, footloose and fancy-free, no responsibilities, me and my best friends running through the fields and playing, and filled with joy. No guilt. No guilt because I don't have something to show for the time I'm spending here, that it's good enough in itself, that the joy of play is its own reward. And in that joy of play is exploring things in nature, and all of that is filled with wonder and joy. I discovered a bug. I discovered a tree. I discovered a leaf. Look at this little plant I've never seen before. Look down here. There's little ants and creatures in our own little environment. I mean, on and on. And the joy and wonder of friendship. That's a mystery of nature in itself. What is it about somebody else that draws you to be friends with them and that you enjoy each other's companies? There's an alignment. There's a frequency resonance that fits. There's you strike a chord. Your fundamental resonant frequency matches theirs as a harmonic, so that you blend together easily. It's like you've always known each other. That is frequency resonance coherence with another person, where you're tuned in harmonic relationships to each other and form a chord. Other people, the best you can do is agree to disagree, because you form a discordant relationship with each other. It could be your own kid. But you have the choice, because it's the wonder and joy of being a conscious, alive child of the universe, that you have the choice to make this happen. You have the choice to feel good for no reason. It's your sovereign right as a living being to say no for any reason that you choose. Someone wants you to do something for them and help their life out, and it's been really hard for you. You haven't had any time off, and today you have earmarked for time off, and you don't even have a plan. You may sit around on the couch and watch television. I mean, whatever you choose to do with your life to feel good for no reason is good enough of an excuse. Because people will come back and say, you say, well, no, I already have plans for today. And they go, well, what plans do you have? Implying that, let me judge whether what you have planned for yourself is more important than what I have planned for you to help me. You have the right to say no. And that means that deeper than that is, I have the right to say no to accommodating to the universe now. I will say no to that, and I'll open myself up to quote, break rule number 2 for a higher purpose. Because survival at all costs is just an automated program that my body's running so that I can keep this system, which is good. But I think the overriding rule that overrides all those rules is rule number 2, which is, don't waste life energy, is what I feel I'm breaking if I don't have something to show for every minute I spend. And I feel uncomfortable with you have to feel good for no reason. You can feel good for no reason, and the feeling good for no reason seems to be breaking rule number 2. That seems to be a waste. I'm not having anything to show for that. But what I have to show for that is a sense of wonder, a sense of aliveness. I have grown myself as a living being by being here now and experiencing things directly, penetrating through the apple of appleness, or penetrating through taking myself for granted and seeing myself again as if the first time. There's worth in that, because the purpose of this form, being alive, is not just to be alive. It's to be aware of my aliveness. So if my body is sort of a three-story factory, a body and emotions and a mind, the product of that factory is a soul, is waking up. The product of that factory is awareness, is awakening, is experiencing the wonder of being here now. My aliveness expands me. A sense of wonder and love and all of those kind of things, those are have importance all within themselves. It's the ultimate product. It's the ultimate thing you could do that has the greatest worth, because it's beyond worth. There's no price that you can put on love, no price you can put on your next breath. There's no price that you can put on another moment of being alive, knowing that you're here, that you're alive and breathing, and you're surrounded by people you love and they love you back, and you've got an amazing world, and it's just stupendously amazing. Milton Erickson, every person's map of the world is as unique as their thumbprint. There are no two people that are alike. Yeah, well, no two people who understand the same sentence the same way. So in dealing with people, you try not to fit them to your concept of what they should be. And it goes deeper than that. You must not, try to fit you into a concept that you have of yourself and what is required for you to be of worth. And that's the conflict that we're constantly battling with each other. When I want to relax and have time for me with no inherent purpose other than play and fun and enjoying and sense of wonder, that's enough. And so for me constantly to fight the hypnosis of what's been loaded into me, of what society would like me to believe is worthy of my time, worthy of my consideration. Within me, what's worthy of my highest consideration is I'm alive, and that the world is filled with stupendous wonder, like Walt Whitman said there. Carl Jung, the collective unconscious contains the whole spiritual heritage of mankind's evolution, born anew in the brain structure of every individual. This idea that the structure of my body, the structure of my brain, is a product of consciousness and not the other way around. Certain people in the scientific community would have us believe that consciousness is a byproduct of electrical activity in the neurons of my brain, a sort of a byproduct of that. And the quantum scientists are showing this. That is not true. And the scientific community and the whole world is now agreeing more and more that consciousnness is a requirement for reality to exist. Consciousness is the substrate. Reality is a potential to be something until consciousness arrives on the scene to witness it. And then all reality that looks solid and it seems to be real pops into existence. But consciousness is the foundation field from which it arises. Very similar to Rupert Sheldrake and the idea of, the morphogenic field. that there is a master field in the universe of consciousness, and it gives rise to the universe that we see. And this tracks directly with, the 4,000-year-old texts from India in Sanskrit. The Vedas, the sutras of Patanjali describe reality exactly in those same terms. This is sort of an idea of God, or the infinite spirit. A continually unfolding, never the same, always changing idea. Your whole skeletal structure is reborn every 7 years. Every single bone cell in your body dies, and new ones are replacing it. Every minute, every day. After 7 years, there's not a single bone cell in any bone in your body that's the same. You are completely new. Your skin is doing it faster. It looks solid day to day, but it's a slow unfolding. Too slow for your consciousness to notice. If you could fast forward the film, you would see the bones disintegrating and rebuilding until they're new. That you and everything in you, your hair, your skin, everything, your eyeballs, all of it is dissolving away and being replaced. Some in a day, some in a week, some in a year, some in 7 years. It's an illusion. It's not what it appears to be. It's stupendously and mind-blowing. The probability of you drinking a glass of water that contains a molecule of water that also passed through a dinosaur is almost 100%. Because it's a terrarium. It's a closed system. It's the water that you're drinking today has been around since the primordial soup, recycled into gas, into the atmosphere, flows towards the poles, condenses and falls as rain and snow, goes into rivers, makes its way back to the ocean. And in the meantime, you drink it, you breathe it as water vapor, goes to the open, recycles to the sky, makes its way to the poles, back through the rivers. You drink more, you breathe more. We're all part of the same thing, and it cycles forever. Same H2O molecules, just change forms over tens of thousands of millions of years, same stuff. Every atom in your body was once inside a star. The elements of the periodic table, as we said in another live stream, all the elements of the periodic table are condensed from explosions from star material. The forces involved in those explosions cause an alchemical transformation of the basic materials of the universe and morphs them into all the elements that we currently see in the periodic table. And those combine together into compounds, which makes you and me. At the other end, they're made of smaller and smaller and smaller particles until you end up at the quantum field, which is there's no more particles. It's just energy pattern relationships forming standing waves that nest together according to music theory, where harmonics and overtone relationships of nesting standing waves, when you back far enough away from it, they coalesce together, so they look like they're solid, like this, like everything here. It's all vibration and space. And at the core of it is consciousness itself having a thought. And the thought is this, all of it. Carl Jung again. In addition to our immediate consciousness, which is of a thoroughly personal nature, there exists a second psychic system of a collective, universal, and impersonal nature, which is identical in all individuals. His concept of the collective unconscious, the single universal consciousness that has tendrils, infinite number of tendrils that are like a hand in a hand puppet. That's you and me and anything else that's alive, everything, planets and rocks and snails and birds, and ants and elephants, and people, all of us, stemming from a single universally wide consciousness that's dreaming this dream, and seeing the universe from all of our eyes and all of our, five senses. This is how the universe experiences universality. This is how God experiences Godhood, is through us, is through our experiences. It's how the infinite consciousness, Godhead, has decided to experience selfhood. Here it is. So, we can begin to align ourselves in our lives and choose to have a sense of wonder. We can make that happen. We can decide that's what it's going to be like. That we can decide that we'll have an experience of waking up to what's here and experiencing it directly anytime we want. We have that choice. From the standpoint of the Vedas, life is a dream anyhow. That it has no more solidity than being in a dream that you believe to be real, like a real dream at night. You think it's real, and you respond to it that way emotionally. Things are happening to you, and you're responding emotionally. You've created a whole world with all the universal laws of that world and populated yourself into it and believe it's real. So how would you know that you're not in a dream? You're going to pinch yourself with dream fingers and experience dream pain? That's not going to wake you up. It's massive and gigantic. It's as big as the universe and as small as a quark, as small as the Planck length, the smallest measurement of anything. And nobody's got a word for the largest. It's stupendously large. It's larger than the universe, because the universe could only be perhaps one mote of a dust particle floating in an ever larger universe that's populated with universes. The multiverse theory, where there's an infinite number of universes in a stupendously large universe that itself is just a mote of dust in an ever larger universe that goes forever, never ends, never stops. Stretch your mind out for that one and grow some new connections. All of it in this sort of fabulous, universally large, stupendous organization, down to a blade of grass, or relaxing by a tree and feeling the grass against your skin. That experience of the grass on your skin is a real thing, just like a planet or a tree or a leaf. My experience of wonder itself is a real thing. It has gravity, it's got wonder. Once we free our minds, there's no place that your imagination can't go or call up, where the yogic powers I talked about, anima, shrinking down to infinite levels, shrinking down to places in your own body that maybe look like this, that at a cell level or at the scalp with hairs thousands of feet into the sky, it goes on, and every level of that can be a place where the brain goes to experience something completely new that you thought you were familiar with. But when you open your mind to it from a new standpoint, it's filled with wonder, filled with new, fresh, mind-blowing experiences. So I had no idea. Wow. It's what your life can be everywhere, at any time. You can be, closing your eyes and experience what's there on the inside. But this universal network of connections between galaxies that look like neuron connections in the brain, all of it is, fractal holograms of each other. We see that over and over in science report after science report, that it's real, that there's a reflection in my mind of universal patterns and a reflection in my consciousness and in my experience that's also beyond the bounds of what I experience in my own body. My mind gives me the capability of expanding beyond my own body, my own planet, my own galaxy. The mind can do amazing things, wondrous, amazing experiences of understanding, experiences that go beyond anything that you've ever thought you knew or could experience, where somehow all of it begins to fit together, the infinitely small and the infinitely big, and the personal and the universally large, sort of impersonal, my personal consciousness and my collective unconscious, where all of us share it together. I don't know, universes within universes within universes, multiverses. It just, becomes something that's sort of too big to understand, too big for this mind to encompass. And so the mind begins to grow new connections, and it increases IQ to try to encompass something that is not possible to encompass. It's too big. You can't follow it to its end because there's no end. There's no beginning to my mind. There's no end to my mind. But there's no place that my mind can't stretch far enough to come in deep contact with the cosmic secrets that underlie the simplest things in my life to the most stupendous things in the universe. All of it is in my purview. All of it is within my capacity. I have to stretch my capacity to understand it. But there's joy in that. There's a payoff of a deeper connection with me, with the universe, with what it means to be alive, and what the experience of that could be. But the depths of what we're surrounded with life and the delicate little things and the stupendous big things, all of it is equal in the mind of this infinite mind. It's all an expression of a continuum that's self-reflected over and over again in a stupendous sort of fractal hologram where everything is reflected in everything else. They're all kind of part of the same thing. The beauty of the art of infinite spirit as artist. Life is a painting that's in motion. There's nothing that's more mind-boggling than a tree or a leaf or a sunbeam hitting that leaf and creating photosynthesis that divides it up and becomes food for you and me and for the tree too. It's like, I don't know, it's too big. And let's check this out. Let's get some perspective. to get our perspective back. It helps to get our perspective back. It's too big. It's stupendously sort of, once you stretch your mind there, it's all that's left is a sense of awe, a sense of wonder. It's too big. Your emotional body doesn't have any idea how to express what it's feeling. So there's no word for it. Wonder and awe fall short on the side of the road. It's too big. It's too big for your mind to encompass. It's too big for your heart to figure out what the emotion is it's experiencing. Is it someplace in awe? Is the stupendousness of trembling? Is that fear? Is it love? Is it it's impossible to know what it is. It's what the word awe is supposed to try to communicate. What the word wonder is supposed to try to communicate is something that you don't exactly know what that means. All you can do is experience it, and we're driven to experience that as part of our nature. It's a driving force behind all parts of our biology. It's not just survival. It's not just making the rent. It's stepping forward and pulling back the curtain to find out what is all of this, what it's all about, and what's my purpose in it. Why am I here? What's all this about? The stupendousness of it, the fact that me as a little organic being in San Diego, on a continent, on a planet, in a solar system, in a galaxy that is just like the galaxy itself, stupendously so huge, gigantically, stupendously big, and it's the smallest possible particle in the universe. It's like this thing lost in the infinitude. Someplace there's a planet, there I am. It's like, wow. With that in mind, we see the patterns of the universe reflected in our own brains and in the designs of nature and the sacred mathematics and their proportions and all the rest. We see all of it part of obviously some amazing artistic master plan where all these influences weave themselves together in a sort of infinite mandala of anything that you could consider to be organic, inorganic, extra small, super large, all of it reflected infinitely in everything else. And there's obviously some grand pattern design behind it all that's just out of reach. The more you grasp for it, the more you get, and the more it proves it to be so, but you're still short of the answer. There's still more, and there will always be more. It's infinite. It's unfolding. Wrap your mind around that awe and wonder, and so to the core of the primary pattern of all things in consciousness itself as an energy field that goes deeper than the quantum and larger than the multiverse, And with that being said, here we are once again. Our soundtrack today is called Wonder, to exemplify what I've just been sort of talking about. So surrender to that one. Stretch your mind out to what you're about to experience. Headphones on. And here we go. That's where you can get the soundtrack. Until next Sunday, please take care of yourselves. Stay safe and happy and healthy and holy. Call up somebody you haven't talked to for a long time and say hello. Next time you're in the bathroom, take a good look in the mirror and see who's there. Use it as an opportunity to say, now's a good time to wake up. See you